Today, I'm here to share some key learnings, what we have had on PayPay's journey. Uh, as Tanmay said, we primarily launched PayPay 3.5 years back, roughly. The launch date was like October 5th, 2018. And in these 3.5 years, PayPay is a market leader in Japan when it comes to payments. So let me quickly, first of all, go through on what PayPay, like what is PayPay, right? I'm sure most of you would be knowing, but let's say there are some people who are outside Japan. So I'll just quickly go through where PayPay is right now, right? We are a market leader in payments uh, in Japan, especially when it comes to QR code payments, and we are present in online payments and many other services as well. We have more than 44 million users right now. You can see the graph how we actually moved from 0 users in October, gained our first users to first million users, and right now we are way above 44 million users. For reference, the population of Japan is 126 million, right? So we're roughly at 1 in every 3 people when it comes to being a user on PayPay. It's not just the user side, right? You have to acquire merchants as well when it comes to payments. We have more than 3.4 million stores which have registered on PayPay right now. A reference for payments, last year in the first half in FY 2021, we actually processed more than 1.6 billion payments. That's the scale at which the system is operating right now. PayPay was ranked the #1 free app on App Store in Japan last year. I think the year before that we were ranked #2, and the year before that we were ranked #1. So that's a very brief about PayPay. There are so many other dimensions about PayPay, but I just wanted to share a high-level view of where PayPay is right now. About me, Tanmay, thanks for the kind introduction. Let me quickly share one or two things. I head the product division at PayPay right now, leading the product management, engineering, and design. I have been with PayPay from day zero. And the most fun part of this journey is that I've been able to see and be a part of the journey for all the different phases: pre-launch, just after the launch, major campaigns, launching offline payments, online payments, P2P. Um, it's been a learning which I can't think of any other place I could have got in particular. I before PayPay, I was heading Paytm's wallet in India, which has around 340 million users right now. Before that, I had my own venture, which was in ride sharing space in Delhi NCR. Yeah, and I love making products, and I love looking into data and coming up with insights and saying that, oh, let's do this in particular. Now, how I have divided this talk is in 3 phases, right? I'll try to cover 3 phases of PayPay's journey. The first phase being the pre-launch and till the first major campaign we had, right? So we start from day 0 in PayPay, which is like when we have to come and make a product in Japan. At that point, we didn't even know the name, right? We didn't know if it would be called PayPay, if it would be called Japan Pay, would it be called something else? We just knew that, hey, we will be starting a payments company in Japan. The key thing that I want to go through in this phase was that in the initial launch phase and maybe 2 months after the launch is the motto that we had was build at speed, right? Because you're creating something new, you would want to create it fast, learn from your mistakes, and then move on, right? Trust me, in PayPay, we have made enough mistakes. I have personally made enough mistakes, but we learn from them and we think on how we can actually improve the work we have done, improve the products that we have, and come up with better solutions for our customers as we go on. Now, in this first phase, primarily, let's go back from where it started, right? So we started work on 15 June 2018. That's the day when PayPay got incorporated. And this is what we had, a blank screen, right? We know that we want to make payments in Japan, but the question is that how should those payments look like? right? We had certain experience in India. I had certain experience working on Paytm in India, but still there are so many nuances in it, right? What part of the product should be a day one product? Should it, what should happen in the initial launch? Uh, we said that we will put an aggressive target of 3 months for the launch. Uh, we already had a date of like end of September, early October that we would want to make the launch. But what all should go in the product is a question that we had to answer to ourselves before we start any work at that point of time. So we asked ourselves, went to the drawing board, go to the basics, right? What is the basic thing that a user would need if it comes to payments, right? The first basic is that we will have new users, right? Those users will come again to the app. Those users will have to make payments to merchants. To make those payments, the users will need payment methods. To make payments, you will need merchants, right? You need stores to go to and make those payments at. For certain payment methods, users might have to add money to them. And once you have made those payments, you want to see where those transactions are. Like you want to reconfirm those transactions sometimes, you want to have a record of them. And as a company, we thought that we want to award our users. And lastly, but not the least, this is the most important one. We have to, and we just have to ensure that PayPay is safe and secure, right? So go back to the basics, think of it that what is it that we absolutely need right now, and then we will move towards the product for it. So the first thing, we will have new users. That means you definitely need a sign up process, right? And in each of these things, while all of these next slides might look like one screens or two screens, a lot of backend effort goes into place. A lot of thought goes into place that how do you actually ensure that uh, the sign up process is a secure one, right? You just can't allow users to bombard the system with lot of signups. Uh, no, not for normal users, but for people who are like bad actors in particular, trying to create scripts and DDoSing your system. You do not want that to happen at all. So we had to ensure 2FA was a part of uh, this process on day one, right? This is a base requirement. Those are the types of requirements as a product manager. You will stand your head out and say that, okay, if this does not happen, we are not going to have the product, right? The new users will come back to PayPay app, right? Now, if they come back, you need a login process, right? Very basics, right? We had a login, a forget password. A fun fact, in our initial launch, we did not have change password in the profile section. We only had a forget password because we thought that, hey, it's okay, right? Because users can definitely go and do a forget password and change the password using that feature. And you have to take those considerations if you have to launch at speed. You have to take that consideration that is there a possibility to go away with this feature and let the user do something else? The user needs to make a payment. We needed to have a merchant scan, user scan payments, right? So we thought of the different payment mechanisms we want to go ahead with, and we implemented those specific payment mechanisms. Now, each of these had a lot of considerations, but for this discussion, I'll not go into the details of each of them. The next one, to make the payments, you need a payment method, right? Which will be wallet and credit card, which means you have to find a way to top up that wallet and a way to add the credit card as well, right? So all the dots start to work backward from once you know what you have to do. You have to work backward that, okay, if I have to get this done, this is what is a precursor for the same. Now, when we were building the wallet system, there are different types of wallet, right? So when you look at PayPay's balance, you see a total balance, but internally there are 4 different types of wallets right now. Initially, we had PayPay Bonus and PayPay Money Lite. Then we added in course of time PayPay Bonus Lite and PayPay Money. Now, all these 4 types of wallets have a hierarchy to it in principle. right? And the hierarchy comes from their utility. For example, PayPay money can be used for making a payment. It can be used for uh, sending P2P. It does not expire, and you can transfer it to bank, right? While PayPay Money Lite can be only used for making a payment, right? Now, if that is the case, right? Now you have a clear hierarchy in the system in place. And that's why from day one, we said that, hey, users will not take a decision on should I use PayPay Money or should I use PayPay Bonus, right? The system will take that decision, because if a user has to take a rational decision out of it, this is the only rational decision that is possible. So let the system take this decision for the users to ensure that the user experience just becomes super smooth. All right. So wherever possible, get your product to take the decision. That was a learning we had from this part of it. Now users needed to add money to their wallet, so we had to create a top up flow, we had to create add bank, and we had to create add YJ card, which is a top up method for PayPay users. And the users have to see their transactions. So we created a payment history, a passbook, where the users can go and see their transactions. We wanted to award our users, so we created cashback, and we also created a very basic campaign management system, which can help us go through our initial campaigns that we decide to undertake at that point of time. And lastly, we wanted to ensure that PayPay is a safe and secure system, so we had a risk management system. And all this we had to do within 3 months, right? So the risk management system had to be created, the rules had to be configured, and everything had to be done within just 3 months. And I think the total team size we had in the product division at that point was around 60 people who were actually working on the whole initial launch. So it was a Herculean task for us to ensure that this initial launch goes through pretty smoothly. But while taking these decisions, right, in terms of the big features that I just pointed out, there were many micro decisions that we have to take in order to ensure that the product does not serve only for today, but also takes into account what can happen tomorrow, right? And let me take an example over here. Now, there are two options on how you can actually calculate commission of a tech transaction, right? One option is that you calculate the commission at every transaction level, right? So Amit makes a payment, PayPay system calculates the commission for that transaction. Tanmay makes a payment, PayPay's system calculates the commission for that transaction. And then at the time of payout, you simply sum it up, right? Sum up the commissions for the forward payments and subtract the commissions for the refund. You calculate the payout. The second option is, which looks much simpler to begin with, that you just calculate the total commission at the time of payout, right? Just multiply it with the net payment minus refund amount and calculate the total commission. Both the methods initially will give you the same value, right? You would get exactly the same commission as in this example for 300 yen. But you have to look into it, that what would happen in future. In future, the merchant contracts can change. If the merchant contracts can change, then refunds can happen for a transaction prior to that contract change as well, right? Think of all those complexities while we were thinking of all those complexities while we were defining our product requirements, to ensure that, hey, we are not just thinking of launching it immediately in three months. We also have to think what would happen in future. These are incremental changes, incremental effort that we have to put in, the nuances we have to put in every product, whether it's on the UX, this is on the system design. But those are things that we have to think way in future as a product manager, rather than thinking just about now. In this case, for example, we went with option one because it's a more scalable one when it comes to changing the commission in future in particular. Uh, so we worked very hard over over those 3 months in particular to ensure that our first app launch happens on 5th of October, right? So we were able to meet our own self-defined target that we want to do this launch within the first 3 months. Now, once we launched PayPay app, users had a different set of problems that we did not anticipate. Users wanted to know where they can use PayPay. Now, coming from the Paytm background, my initial assumption was that user will go to different stores and come to know that, hey, Paytm is available because the scale is just so high for Paytm, right? But PayPay is a 0 to 1 game still, right? Users still do not know where PayPay is available. And that's why, to solve this problem, we decided to launch Map on PayPay, right? So the icon for Map that we see on PayPay was launched to solve the user problem that users did not know uh, where to make a payment using PayPay. They had an app, they loved the app, they loved the user experience, but how do I go and actually make a payment? To solve that problem, we launched Maps on PayPay. Fun fact, if you look at the right one, which is Google My Map, this was the first version of Map that we launched, and we launched it within 2 hours of thinking that this is a user problem, right? Uh, and we decided to take that call. Is it a perfect product? Answer is no. We went toward a perfect product or a better product. I won't say it's a perfect product still. Every product, it has many opportunities for improvement, but we went for a quick launch, and then we went on to make it better as we go on. Because we are still in that phase, right? Build for speed. Uh, all users didn't have a top-up method, right? Users might not be comfortable in attaching their credit cards, and they do not have a top-up method to top up their wallet to make the payment. Our initial launch for P2P was to solve this problem, right? Because we understood that adding a bank account can have challenges in the very beginning. P2P was not considered as initially for people transferring money to each other. We knew that was a use case of it anyways, but the initial use case we wanted to solve, we knew we had a big campaign coming in 1 month. People will not have money. How will they go and spend? So the problem we wanted to solve at that point of time was a funding problem when we went for P2P in November 2018. And P2P also, I think this was one product. Again, we went with speed. We launched it within 3 weeks from the very first product specs to the launch of the product in particular. On 4th December 2018, we did our first 10 billion yen campaign. Now, just before doing that campaign, one key concern we had was that once you're giving so much cash back, there is so much risk in the market. How do we take care of that risk in particular? So at that point of time, we thought of uh, delaying the bonus, right? Which was like we said that, hey, we will give the information for the cashback right now, but give us ourselves some time so that we can analyze the transactions, look into the data and say that, hey, this looks like a fraudulent transaction, or this looks like a case where someone is abusing the campaign, so that we can actually take a retrospective action. And in order to take the action, you need to ensure that the person is just not using away the cashback and going out of the system directly. So we created cashback pending. A deep learning that we had from this product in particular is that you can decouple the payment, the money movement when the user actually gets the cashback, and the information flow, right? We were giving the user an upfront information of the cashback they have got, the lottery they have won. Um, and primarily, this helped us to ensure that the user still gets the experience and the gratification of getting that cashback, while the money movement is actually happening at a later point of time. The fun fact, again, here again, we created this system within 1 week, end to end in particular. Now, this phase one, which was build at speed, there were some key learnings that we had. The first one being build a user journey on what is absolutely necessary, right? If change password is not necessary, please do not have it on day one. we can have those features on day 2, day 3. There will be a time when we will create all those features, create what is absolutely necessary in the day 1. Second one, structure the product into smaller milestones, right? It's just not fine to retrospect after 3 months and say that, hey, this didn't work out, or we were not able to meet the timeline. We actually divided everything in 1 week time frames. Like, what is it that we need to achieve this week? What is it that we need to achieve next week, the week after that, up to our launch date? Third one is very important. Have a technical architecture that can support parallel development. This goes towards the basic architecture that you choose, in particular the frameworks that you're using, and also going to an extent that having a contract which is between the front end and the back end, different back end systems, so that you can have parallel developments happening, right? Till the time the API contracts are finalized, most of the cases can work in a parallel development scenario. Fourth thing, know how the product might extend in future, right? You can only try to guess it, right? Because looking into future is tough, but there will be some very basic things which you can anticipate and try to include in the product, then in there only. Trust me, once a product is live, it becomes really tough to go and make those changes, which are much easier to make in the initial phases itself. The last one, finish fast and review the basics, right? So when we had the timeline for 5th of October, it's not that we were developing till 4th of October. We were done by 10th or 15th of September. After that, we were doing internal betas, internal tests, and reviewing the very basics, right? Is the money movements happening correctly? Are the basic things working out? Is the 2FA implemented correctly? Some of these things are technical, but you will have to go out of your skin to make it happen. It's if you're in a startup working in a very small team or going for a product launch, everyone has to do everything in particular, right? You have to raise your hand and say that, hey, you need a translated app. I would create the English version, whether I'm the product manager, right? That can happen. So you might have to raise your hand and say that, hey, I would do it, but finish it fast so that you have time to review. Now, from there, we went into the second phase of PayPay's journey, which I call build for scale, right? So this phase will be somewhere between the first major campaign and the first anniversary campaign that we had. It goes way beyond it, but this is when the core realization for build for scale actually came to us in particular. Now, after and during the first anniversary campaign, we had millions of users who have signed up to PayPay, and they like our product. There are more merchants we are adding every day. We earlier had, I think, Lawson, then we went to Family Mart, and we added other major merchants. People love getting the cashback, and they like to use our app and undertake payments using PayPay. We are primarily driving a behavioral change. However, all users didn't have a top-up method uh, at this point, right? We said we wanted to solve it using P2P, but P2P is not a scalable solution for top-up, right? It's a hack, but it's not a solution. So at this point of time, our product focus has to be on defining what are the key things which are inhibiting users from using PayPay again and again. One of the key ones we figured out was a top-up method. Now, we can have multiple options over there. In particular, the option we decided to go ahead with was a 7-Eleven ATM top-up. With 30,000 plus ATMs in Japan, that at that point of time helped us in ensuring that any user can have an access to go to an ATM and do a top-up. It's also a very good offering from a perspective of people who are first-time users of financial products, right? Because the trust level needed for a user to attach their credit card or attach their bank account to a financial app is much higher than like going to an ATM and doing a top-up of physical cash. And that trust has to be gradually and Gradually, you have to win the trust of the user, make them feel more comfortable to be able to reach that level of both trust and financial maturity, in order to ensure that the users are able to use your app in a even more seamless way. But ATM top up or the product features was not the only thing we started to focus on, right? When you see PayPay app in the first look, it looks like PayPay invests most of the time in building features, and many more features. But that's not true. Uh, we defined a fundamental difference. We said that, hey, we want to build features, but features are not the only thing which are important, because what we want to ensure is that a user who is in a store, wants to do a payment, is able to do the payment without any problems at all, right? Now, if that was the case, we had to redefine on what we prioritize at this level, right? Are we going to prioritize new feature development alone, or are we going to prioritize certain other aspects? So what we prioritize in PayPay, and this is something we do even today, very, very, very cautiously, which is like features are actually the last in priority. It's important for us to build new features, but there are four things that take precedence over it. Performance, which is like the system having the right scale, takes a precedence over features. Quality, which is the features that we have right now, being users being able to use them in a more seamless manner, takes more priority, right? We should not have any bugs. That takes more priority. System stability takes more priority, and security is the topmost priority, right? People are trusting us with their money. The system just has to be secure, right? There is no second option over there in particular. So scaling the system in particular, when it comes from a technical scale perspective, it is something that takes time and effort. This is not something that happens in 2 months, 3 months. Uh, it takes years and a continuous effort in terms of the system architecture redesigns, conducting the performance load tests, working with partners to ensure that the system overall scales. Now, this is a rough graph of how our system has moved over the years. You can see the red one is actually the max TPS we got during any day, and the blue one is the system capacity. And this is something we are very proud of as an achievement in PayPay, that if you look at our first campaign, which was 2019, just the first red and the blue, where the red and the blue lines intersect, you will see that the system scale and the transactions were almost touching each other, right? This primarily means that there would be downtimes, and there were downtimes. Similarly, the first anniversary campaign, and when Meti underwent the large cashback push in cashless push in Japan, these two lines came very, very close to each other, a little too close for us to be comfortable about it. And that's where we said, no, we have to invest even more time and effort into system scaling. And you can see over a period of time, while there have been certain bursts in the past, the system scale has been more or less at least double of the, mostly it has been more than double of the transaction volume. And we invest a lot of time and effort on an ongoing basis to ensure that this is the case. Because if this is not the case, the users will not be able to make a payment in the store. And I'll come to that line of thought once again. We while we were having those problems with those two lines coming very close to each other, we did create certain backup plans, right? The backup plan was have a rate limiter, show the user an error message uh, that, hey, we are having some problems right now, please come up after some time. But there's a problem with this approach as well, which we realized after having this live for some time. And that problem was that, think of the user who gets this message, right? For whom PayPay system is not working, and that user is in the front of the queue in a store trying to make a payment. Right? Just think of that user. And as a user, I go over there, go to the cashier, the bill is done. I say I want to pay using PayPay, and suddenly this phishing unavailable message comes, right? That hey, PayPay is not working. That is simply not acceptable because uh, you have put the user in a very, very bad spot in front of a merchant. Now, that's why we said that even our rate limiter screens or even our basic uh, functionality that we provide in case of a system not working as expected at the level that we want has to be a good experience. So your backup plan, which was primarily to have a rate limiter screen, has to be a good experience as well. Um, and that's where we went with something we call a PayPay Lite mode, where we primarily degrade the experience slightly in order to ensure that the system can recover. But the basic functionalities would be available. We tell the user on what the issue is going on. Uh, so primarily, in simply speaking, have empathy for the users, right? Think about what the user will feel if I have an error case. This is the extreme of an error case that can happen. Think of it in every small error case. That is something we try to put in PayPay as we design the product. And it's not just about PayPay alone, right? PayPay is an ecosystem, right? We have payment gateways, PSPs with whom we work. Now, think of this example. PayPay having 100 TPS transactions and 200 TPS capacity. It looks like the system is green. But what if our partners are not that much green, right? What if our partners are having 60 TPS transactions with 90 TPS of capacity? What if a partner has 40 TPS uh, transactions with 40 TPS capacity? So during this phase in PayPay, we actually work with each and every major partner to look into it. Okay, this is the transaction forecast we have for PayPay. This is the transaction forecast we have for our partners. Uh, we conducted load tests not internally, but also with each and every partner to ensure that their system scales with ours. This is not a one-day effort. This is not a month or 2 month or a quarter effort. This is something we have been constantly doing for the last 2 to 3 years now. Last two years easily, we have been doing this in a very, very cautious manner. And this is an ongoing activity for us. Like this is bread and butter now. So in this second phase for build for scale, the key learnings that we had is that from a feature perspective, identify the user's pain points and think of features that can help solve the problem for most of the users in particular. This is what we did with the 7-Eleven ATM top up. The second one, system scaling, it needs dedicated time and effort, right? So everyone out there, I know some of you might be in the product management team, some of you might be in the tech team. There has to be dedicated effort from the team to make it happen. Have backup plans, right? In particular. So the rate limiter for us was a backup plan, but those backup plans should also be graceful enough. So the point number 4, always have empathy for the users. Right? Don't just think about, hey, this is another error case. No, it can be something which can be an embarrassing situation for a user. It can be something where a user needs it, let's say, for a ride to the hospital, right? So you have to ensure that your backup plans are pretty good, pretty solid in particular. And think of the ecosystem, not just PayPay in this case. If the ecosystem does not work, users will think that, hey, PayPay is not working. I'll go to the last phase of it, which is post the first year campaign. And I call it like build a platform for speed and scale. We have phases after this, but for today's talk, I'll restrain to this one in particular as the last one. But during this phase, we decided to open up the platform, right? And how we did it in particular, first of all, having an API platform, which we call open APIs and PayPay for developer, because now we were sure that, hey, we have a good core payments flow. We have a system that can scale up. We have a good user experience. In terms of offline payments, our users would want to use us in terms of other type of payments, whether it's online payments and other services as well. Once we are very sure that we are clear of the scale part and everything else, we cautiously decide to move towards opening up the platform. So you can see 4 flows here. There are many other flows we have for online payments. The fun fact over here: web payments, app invoke, dynamic QR code. While these are 3 different user experiences, these are 3 different product offerings, but technically they are exactly the same thing. If you go into the API details, you'll understand these are exactly the same products. We just ensure that the outermost layer of that is different, but technically they're exactly the same. And that is the level of thought we put in while building a product. How can we actually create other product offerings using exactly the same product? By making all these specific changes, opening up the platform, we have many merchants, whether it comes to online payments. This is a small section of the merchants that we have right now. So suddenly we have opened up our users to be able to make payments on some of the biggest merchants out there, and different online stores as well. Then the next phase we had was launching for mini apps, which primarily we had different services, whether it was PayPay Mall, Uber Eats. We recently launched PayPay Insurance. ChargeSpot is a partner we work with for launching a mini app. Now, this is a part of our platform product offering, right? Think of the online payments, think of the mini apps. Are we writing that code again and again, right? Are we doing the PRDs for it again and again? The answer is no, we are not, right? But as a platform, the product has to be designed in a way that you can enable many use cases. And honestly, some of those use cases you won't even think while creating the platform, right? For example, one of these was giving our users a flavor of investment. So we right now have a bonus investment mini app, where users are given an easy option to invest their cash back. This gives users a good first step to be part of financial inclusion for the investment market, not just payments. And 1 year investment was something I think we started as a part of it. And I would want to highlight this again. The product is never the UX alone. The product we have is not the UX alone. If this 1 year investment would not have been the case, the product might have had a totally different user reception. So you have to look into the numbers in particular. You have to look into all the different facts. UX is an important part of the product. How you structure the product is a different part of the product. How you ensure that your system scales is a different part of the product, right? And the users have to have a checkbox in all of them. It's not one versus the other anytime. Right now, we have 5 million users on PayPay who actually use this product for bonus investments. Did we think of this product while creating the mini app platform? Surely we didn't. But that's the beauty of platform products, that a lot more is created out of it once you have the basic product infrastructure ready. Fun fact, the mini apps and the open APIs are served from the same system. What this helps us is that if an mini app tomorrow needs, say, a specific functionality which is given in open APIs, we can actually give that, right? And that would be a very small incremental development effort for us. This is something we have thought of cautiously over a period of time, right? It's not happened by chance. We have thought of these things, that how can we ensure that the products can scale horizontally? How can we ensure that we can build out products which can leverage each other in particular? Now, with many mini apps, a new problem that comes up is how can we ensure consistent experience from the user side, right? So we came up with PayPay's app style guides to ensure that, hey, the design team on PayPay worked on this and said that, hey, we need to ensure that there is a consistent user experience across different mini apps, right? And we are still working in that direction to ensure that this happens much more. But this was one of our efforts to ensure that there's a consistency. Will all the users be interested in all the services once you have so many services? The answer is no, that cannot just happen. Sometimes it might be a function of availability of the service. Sometimes it might be a function of users' own interest. So what we ensure is we ensure that there is a level of personalization that can happen so that users can benefit most while using PayPay, right? So the icons that you see on PayPay, they are personalized mostly depending on different aspects. For example, the Mina Point campaign. If a user has already taken that 5,000 yen benefit using PayPay's platform, then the user doesn't need to see that icon again. They can most likely use some other service and get more benefit out of it. So that level of personalization is needed once you move towards a platform product strategy in particular. Platform products just cannot happen without a good personalization happening, a good discoverability happening. How do you empower our merchants to engage with users, right? So platform products are not only on the API side or the user side. You have to create it with for the merchants, especially the smaller merchants. How can they engage using this platform with the users as well, so that there is some network effects that come in. We launched a couple of services for that over the last couple of years, which include merchant channels, which includes payment link coupons. Merchants can create their coupons on PayPay. We recently launched stamp cards as well, where merchants can ensure a consistent like award, where merchants can primarily award loyalty from a user in particular by using stamp cards. Now, the key thing over here is that creating a product, a platform product, is a constant process, right? It is not something that happens again in a day or two. You have to put in thoughts on each and every small aspects. How do you manage the API specs? How do you ensure that what goes into the scope management, right? How do you handle the user permissions? How do you ensure that the design is consistent? And it is not something which is a tech project alone. It is something that has to be driven by a product manager, technology team, and the design team all together. So PayPay is a platform which is designed for scale, right? And this scale primarily, whether it's a horizontal scale in getting new services using many apps, is something that helps us to build on the speed aspect as well, right? Now, having that platform as PayPay, it's not that, for example, for launching Uber Eats, we are not just leveraging our own tech teams, we are also leveraging Uber Eats tech team, their product managers, their designers. So that platform solution helps us to get the scale and speed by not just leveraging our own resources, but also leveraging our partner resources as well. Yeah, this slide in particularly defines the different systems that we have, whether it's a BFF, a mini app framework, an open API framework, a payment as a service. We were the first to launch payment as a service, I think globally, when we launched PayPay as a part of 7-Eleven app in particular. And PSP gateways have been there with us for some time now. So the key learnings from this phase were first, creating a framework is important, and we should focus our time and effort on it. They are very powerful. You do not know what is going to be built on it. You can only try to imagine, but there will be more creative people than me. There'll be more creative people out there who will be able to create even more beautiful products out of it. The second one, use cases are important, but build them with the platform in mind, right? It's very easy to create each of these things as just one use case, right? When we were having our first mini app, it's very easy to create it as just one mini app, create it as a service on PayPay. But if you do not have it as a platform in mind, that scaling part, that speed part, which will come in future, the learnings that you can apply in future would just not come up. Platform products are not just a technical task. A lot of people think that, hey, it's up to the tech team to create the API specs to do it out. That is not correct. It is something which needs equal involvement from the PM team and also the design team, right? Um, I don't think that PayPay would have been able to create good mini app experiences if our design team would not have pitched out and said that we will create a design guide, for example. With more services, I think this is 101. Discoverability and personalization is something which becomes much, much more important. And lastly, all platform products are not APIs. Some of them enable end users to achieve more. For example, payment link coupons is a platform product. It's a platform which enables merchants to connect with users, but um, it's not an API product, at least as of now. So all platform products are not APIs alone, but think of anything that you're building as how can you actually build it in a platform in future in particular.